You're listening to Expectful Shared Stories. This is Liv.
I am still breastfeeding. So we are 14 months now, exclusively breastfeeding. I finally regulated at about 3 months. And I had pumped so much that I had a storage of milk that lasted for 7 months. Our freezer was full. And so I had to, I would only keep the night milk because the night milk is what was helping her sleep at night. And so I kept the 1,000 mLs. I don't even know how many ounces that is, but I kept all of that night milk and was giving it to her for during the day while she was at school. We call it school, but daycare, a couple times a week. And the whole process, I think, of mammogenesis, the whole process of milk coming in, and it really threw me off because I had no idea how difficult it was going to be. And I don't know if I had heard those words prior or if I had listened, that breastfeeding was going to be hard. I hadn't heard those words from anyone. I had heard how terrible an episiotomy would be. And so I was horrified of that. And I prepared everything I could to not get that. And I had heard how terrible a crowning would be. And so I worked very hard to make sure that nothing would happen and I wouldn't feel that pain. But no one would tell you, and there was no avoidance for that pain. And there was no way to get out of it. Yes, I could quit, but then I had to go through the process of drying up. And that meant that it was a whole nother pain that I had to approach. And so once I was at that crossroads of, do I continue or do I stop? And it was, okay, which pain can I avoid more? Or which pain can I avoid faster? There was just no out. There was just continuous every 3 hours of breastfeeding and latching and trying to get that latch correct because it was still painful in some way, or things just weren't going right because they weren't maybe gaining the weight, or it was so many variables that I had no idea about. I was like, why didn't I get educated in this? Did I miss that volume in the book? Did I skim over it? Did I not read enough? Did I not listen in some way when someone explained that they would breastfeed their child? Why didn't I ask those difficult and hard questions? Why didn't I know it was difficult? It was just this loop of continuous questions. And that really drove me to answer those questions for myself. And now that I'm studying lactation counseling, I really see how much of a gap there is in this education for all women. And we only know this we only have this education once we go through the process, which I think is ridiculous. I think we should know beforehand. And I think this should be open forum, and it should be a place where we should be able to share our stories and have other women learn from our stories and our experiences, because this is kind of a hand-me-down knowledge. It is something that we are naturally able to do, and we have this capability, but this knowledge is innate. And that's why it's important that we speak out about it and we speak to others about it, because it's something that's handed down. This knowledge is given woman to woman, mother to mother, but our own parents forget this knowledge because it's been 50 years since they've had this. And my mom, I asked her, I was like, okay, so what was the process like for you? And she's like, I kind of forgot. I know I kind of gave you formula at 6 months, but I don't remember. Oh, yes, you gave me mastitis. Yes. And then I'm like, okay, so how did that happen? What's going on? It's just a little bit too, I think that maybe we block it out too as things go on. And that's why I wanted to continue to talk about it and learn about it, so I don't forget. And I don't forget so that I can help other mothers when they're going through it. And you don't know how many times mothers have come up to me, even just from sharing my experience, even over Instagram. Mom will say, hey, you're still breastfeeding, right? What was it like? And I will just bombard them with as much information as possible so that they are prepared. I get this question sometimes, they're like, am I getting the right mobile for the baby? I'm like, you should stop thinking about the baby right now and think about yourself. And I'll give them a bunch of books and I'll give them a bunch of resources and just say, read as much as you can, even if it's just one article. here's some information about what's going to happen since you're choosing to breastfeed. And I really just want them to have the outcome that is good for them, no matter how long they breastfeed. I don't want them to be traumatized. I want them to be able to feel empowered by the choices that they make, not, oh, I had to switch to formula because I took a medication and I didn't know that if I took this medication, I could still breastfeed, but I stopped. And then after a day I was dry. And then just these stories where they didn't make the choice for themselves. All these stories are very just like birth. Every decision we make, it affects even just a couple hours later, because milk is alive and we are nurturing a human being. And so I just really hope that my story, or sharing those simple words that breastfeeding is difficult, will open up the dialogue and open up the conversation, make it a little bit more approachable for women to ask me or ask others and lean on others through the process, because the numbers are abysmal of how many mothers continue to breastfeed. And it's something that it hurts me, because I know that it's how difficult it is, but I know also how beneficial it is. And yes, we have choices, and yes, the choices we make are always the right decision. But if we had the support, would we have made the more difficult choice? Would we have been able to stick with it, or would we have known a little bit more about the science behind it and our biology? Would that have made us stick with the hardship a little bit more? And I think there is more conversation that needs to be had around this, and more education. And I'm not sure how it's going to take effect. Maybe more here on Expectful. I know that I've listened into your lactation counseling, and I've used a lot of your support systems and your meditations as well. So I'm really happy that we do have these resources. We just need to share them with everybody as much as possible, and make sure that women know where to go when they have these difficulties.